And so it all comes down to this, the final installment in Al Ewing's genre-bending, character-redefining time on the Jade Giant. Will the Hulks be able to save Bruce Banner from the clutches of the leader, or will he be lost on the other side of the Green Door forever? Well, let's hop into the pages of Immortal Hulk issue number 50 and find out together, shall we? So then, as the comic begins, Al Ewing sees fit to give us the last oh-so-important piece in the bigger Gamma Ray Green Door Hulk puzzle that we've been putting together all series long. We're introduced to two brothers sometime in the early 1900s, Robert and Samuel. Samuel is a brilliant scientist making great inroads in the field of radium, and Robert is a devout priest. So yeah, basically we have man of faith, man of science, but they're both brothers. One night, Robert shows up to Samuel's house unannounced and ends up getting a massive earful about all the breakthroughs his brother is making in the field of rays. In fact, he thinks it's only a matter of time until their family has a ray named after them. What inspired Samuel's big scientific breakthrough? Well, if you're eagle-eyed like me, you'll realize that this guy owns a very special and familiar-looking skull. Yep, that's right, that skull belongs to Tamaz, the original Stone Age Hulk from the pages of Hulk Time of Monsters. Furthermore, if you're like me and know something about the roots of popular names, you'll realize that Samuel and Robert actually have quite a lot of story attached to them. Samuel, of course, is an evolution of Samael, aka the name that Satan had before God cast him out of heaven. And Robert, oh well, that's an old German name that means bright fame. Bright and the devil coming together to create the very first gamma rays. Oh, but if that's not biblical enough for you, wait till you hear what happens next. You see, Samuel was actually sleeping with his brother's wife, which means Robert came here tonight to murder him. So yeah, it's classic Cain and Abel, but it doesn't stop there. You see, Robert's wife is actually pregnant with his brother's child, and when he finds out, he rebukes them both, literally leaving them out in the cold as he slams the door on them. And yes, you don't even have to ask, that door is most definitely green. Oh, and one final thing of note, Robert and Samuel, their last name was Stern, meaning not only did we just see the origin of gamma rays and the Green Door, but we also saw how the Stern family line as we know it began. Now in the present, Jacqueline McGee, the Green Hulk, and the Red Hulk are walking their way through the place below all, a blighted hellscape that is, well, yeah, just that, it's hell. We also thankfully get some clarification about Joe's new form as the Red Hulk. It seems that when he was blasted by all those cosmic rays in his human form, he actually took on a brand new Hulk form, something that they've never actually seen before. Meaning that this Red Hulk is basically the first ever cosmic Hulk. How about that? Our heroes certainly hope this new wrinkle will give them the edge they need in taking down the leader, because he's surely grown in power since they've seen him last. In fact, they're not even sure if this horrifying place has influenced him or the other way around. They also freely admit that they don't have much of a plan to take down their foe and rescue Bruce. They're just gonna do what they always do in this situation, and that is, well, hit stuff and hope it works out for the better. The childlike Green Hulk gets the party started, as he so often does, trying to break out the outermost shell of the leader. At first he can't do it, but then he starts to hear the abusive voice of his father, Brian Banner, and suddenly he's filled with a lot more strength and a lot more rage. This actually ends up being a very important character moment for Jacqueline. She sees a lot of herself in the sad, broken, childlike Hulk. It reminds her of, well, herself when her own father died. From there, our heroes make their way deeper into the leader's stronghold to a crazy MC Escher-style room filled with other characters whose lives were touched by gamma radiation who we haven't had the chance to see yet. There's Hulk's alien wife, who ends up walking right past him, as everyone in this room is just a ghost, an echo of the past meant to slow our hero's ascent. There's Dr. Samuel himself, who is understandably pretty tortured, knowing full well what his research ended up wreaking on the world. But the most interesting ghost here is actually Joe Fixit's old casino buddy, the guy who actually gave him the name Joe in the first place, a reference to Mighty Joe Young, his favorite big gorilla. Joe actually really loved and looked up to this guy, seeing him as something of a father figure, one of the only people who was actually kind to him. But because unfortunately one of the legacies of the Hulk is to always bring death, destruction, and chaos to everyone around them, Joe had to leave this guy, and when he was gone, his enemies ended up executing him. Once again, Jacqueline sees a lot of herself in the Hulk. She knows a thing or two about breaking stuff, leaving, and coming back years later, unfortunately. With these spirits put to rest, though, our heroes are finally ready to ascend to the final level and battle the leader one-on-one. He even grows a brand new xenomorph-style mouth just for the occasion before turning the Green Hulk into a literal flesh puppet to fight the Red One. It seems that the leader really is more powerful than anyone in this realm right now, and that they might all be screwed. It's here that Jacqueline ends up coming face to face with her own ghost, her father, who she couldn't even look at the last time they were in the place below all. Looking, though, as we soon discover, is actually the key to unlocking all of this. Unlike the Hulk, the gamma that is inside Jacqueline gives her the ability to see things on another plane. And once she can finally work up the courage to look past her father and look evil in the eye, she can actually find the place where the old Sam Stern is inside his large new monstrous form. It's here too the Red and Green Hulk are able to work together and quite literally drag the human form out of the leader. After all, that's pretty much what his plan has been this whole time, to separate Bruce Banner from his other personalities, to have them fight each other. But a Hulk united can stand against a whole lot. Of course, the leader's defeat doesn't mean much. He was always a puppet of the far greater evil, the one below all, the ultimate embodiment of evil and corruption, the one behind the green door. And this is where the story gets really interesting and starts bucking some trends. You see, Joe calls out the one below all, not to fight him though. He wants answers to the questions that have been eating him up inside for well ever. Basically, why is Hulk essentially living a biblical Job-esque existence? Why must he always suffer? Why must he always be alone? And why must he always hurt himself and those around him? Eventually though, the Hulk stopped asking that question to the one below all because, and this is probably the biggest, craziest revelation I've read in a comic for a long time, and that is, well, the one below all is actually a Hulk himself. He is the dark, corrupted, chaotic flip side to the one above all, also known as, well, God, essentially, in the Marvel Universe. Not a godlike figure, not a godly, powerful character, the actual creator God. And now that the Jade Giants finally have an audience with Yahweh, they want some answers. Why has God deemed it that the Hulk needs suffer as much as he does? And they want a real answer too, not a dismissive, I work in mysterious ways, it's all part of my plan sort of answer that they're used to. And the true revelation to these questions is, well, kind of shocking. The one above all says that the Hulk suffers because he is his child, because that is what he was created to do. The Hulk is, after all, an extension of the one above all's left hand, created to destroy, but also to rebuild anew with his right. The Hulk has amazing powers, but has only ever used half of it. This message is a little bit lost on Joe, but it's not lost on the Green Hulk. He decides that if he can build, if it is in him to not destroy, then he's gonna start with Sam Stern by actually forgiving him and getting him out of hell. After a fact though, Joe does eventually come around to an idea of forgiveness on his own, and that starts with Jacqueline McGee. The Hulk did basically destroy her life and her family. And while no apology would ever be good enough, Joe does pretty much offer himself in servitude to Jacqueline should she ever need him, when she should ever need him. And it's after that we're in the wrap-up. The good guys manage to save Bruce Banner's body, and the Fantastic Four, with the help of Doc Sasquatch, are able to open back the portal and get them home. Everyone ends up celebrating a job well done, but when they weren't paying attention, Bruce Banner, who finally has his mind back in order for the first time in what feels like forever, just kinda ends up walking off into the sunrise. He has himself a new lease on life, and before the leader's defeat, he closed all the green doors behind him, meaning that maybe he'll actually make the most of his one life this time. And so that was the Immortal Hulk issue number 50, everybody, a suitably epic conclusion to what ended up being an incredibly epic saga from beginning to end. This is one of those once-in-a-lifetime stories and a once-in-a-lifetime run that we should all count ourselves lucky that we got to read when it was new. We're going to be talking about this Hulk story in the same way we talk about Alan Moore's time on Swamp Thing. This is a series that used every part of Hulk continuity but was able to remix it and remaster it in ways we never thought possible before, by including themes of horror, theology, social commentary, and all wrapping it in a nice little bow. In the end, what this ended up being was a story about trying to look past people's traumas to see the good inside of them instead of the monster. That maybe we create our own gods and devils in our own minds, or that maybe there is a god and a devil inside each of us us and that we get to decide who we want to be. As you might have guessed, I can think of giving this one no less than a perfect 10 out of 10. This is a masterpiece and a must-have on any self-respecting comic book fan's shelf moving forward.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cape Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.